The massive $368 billion AUKUS submarine deal has dominated headlines in the Asia-Pacific, with most commentators focusing on the signal it sends to China. But what do Australia's near neighbours think? Well, Dr. TESS NEWTON CAIN is an expert on the Pacific region and project lead at Griffith University's Pacific Hub. Welcome, Tess. So good to have you back with us on the APAC network. Now, from your own networks, what's the reaction been like to this announcement around the region?
I think it's been quite interesting. So far, it's been quite muted, but I think that may change in the coming days and weeks. What was really interesting is that we heard from Foreign Minister Penny Wong this morning that she and other members of the Albanese government have been doing a lot of work prior to yesterday's announcement to talk to regional colleagues, including those in the Pacific. Now, that's obviously been done on a fairly quiet basis because there hasn't been any media or publicity around that. But what we may see in the coming days is some further comment.
So then, from the Pacific nations' standpoint, where does it leave them as key geographic players post this announcement?
Well, I think from their perspective, they've made it very clear where they are. They know where they sit geographically, and they have a very, very clear understanding of where they sit strategically. From a diplomatic point of view, they have made it clear. Many countries have made it clear that their foreign policy is based around being friends to all and enemies to none, and that is what they want to maintain. They want to be recognised as sovereign agents that make their own decisions according to what their priorities are. A number of Pacific Island countries, such as Vanuatu and Papua New Guinea, are established and proud members of the non-aligned movement, and that's where they want to stay. They've made it very clear that they don't want to be drawn into someone else's geostrategic competition. They're not pawns on a chessboard, and neither are they a prize to be fought over. Now, any decision such as this one that compromises that is going to be one that causes concern. And, I'm already hearing that there are questions being raised about where does this sit within the context of, for example, a potential security agreement between Australia and Vanuatu or between Australia and Papua New Guinea. So I think this is all going to be part of the mix. And I think that there are some really serious issues for Pacific leaders to think about in terms of how they take those conversations forward.
At the moment, it seems like opinions are really divided on whether this is going to ease tensions in the region or actually heighten them. What is your view?
Well, I think we need to, if we look back over the last few years, we've heard some really significant things from Pacific leaders, including quite strong calls from Ralph Raganvanu in Vanuatu when he was foreign minister. He's now their climate change minister, and he said when Australia announced increased rotations of US Marines into Darwin, he was very strong to say, we don't want to see militarization of the region. So for a number of people, this idea that there's going to be an increased militarization of the region is really significant and very concerning. And to a large extent, who is doing that militarization is not the issue. They don't want to see militarization, full stop. I think we also need to look to what we've heard from Pacific leaders as to where they see, how they assess the security threats that they face. And largely, they do not see China as a security threat. They've made it very clear what the security threat is that they face, and that is the impacts of climate change. And just, as we know, Vanuatu has recently been on the receiving end of 2 Category 4 cyclones within the space of a week, which is a huge impact for a small country to take. So I think, there will be questions along the lines of, well, this is all very well. You're able to work together and make these big announcements with big dollar signs attached to them in relation to this security threat that you perceive. But what about the security threat that we are already facing? Where is the big announcement around that? Where is the ability to align around that? Where is the dollar spend around that? So I think, these are the sorts of questions that people are going to be asking, as well as the ongoing concerns about anything that has nuclear in it sets off a lot of red flags and a lot of warning bells for people in the Pacific.
So on that front specifically, does AUKUS actually change the game?
Look, I think, you know, for the benefit of those that maybe aren't across this, the nuclear-free Pacific movement was at the heart of Pacific regionalism and was at the heart of moves for decolonization in the region. And out of that came the Rarotonga Treaty, which sets up the South Pacific Nuclear Free Zone. And Australia is a key member of that, played a key part in negotiating that. Now, when you read that treaty, the use or the deployment of nuclear-propelled submarines does not go against the letter of that treaty. However, I was in a conversation yesterday with a very well-established thinker and activist in this space, and he made it very clear that it certainly offends against the spirit of that treaty.
So what do you see coming next, Tess, if you were going to take out your crystal ball? Is there still, as far as you can see, some manoeuvring to come? Can Pacific nations actually use this to their advantage?
Well, I think that's an interesting one. And I think where there are a couple of areas where Pacific Island countries may be able to use this to their advantage. One is to use it as, leverage in the constant conversation about seeking to make Australia up its ambition in relation to climate change, and particularly around loss and damage, and particularly around how many dollars Australia is prepared to commit. To say that there are the best part of $370 billion available for Project X makes it very difficult to then say to the Pacific, oh no, sorry, we don't have any more money for your project. But I think more specifically, or more closer to the heart of this, is whether Pacific Island countries will seek to prevail and lobby Australia to sign up to the International Convention Against Nuclear Weapons. Now, that is part of Labour Party. That was passed at a Labour Party conference, national conference, a few years ago. A number of Pacific Island countries are already signatories to this convention. Some of them were very early signatories. And so it may be that they would see this as a way of opening a conversation to prevail upon Australia to join them as signatories to that convention. And that would certainly go some way to bolstering Australia's position that by signing up to this agreement, they're not in breach of the Rarotonga Treaty. They're still very committed to that. And neither are they in breach in any of their other non-proliferation obligations.